does it mean to be unequally yoked? Is this only referring to dating and the marriage relationship? In this video, I will break down what this means. Close to the end of the video, I will share with you some important tips to debunk what some called unequally yoked in marriage. So please watch the video to the end. Let's have this conversation. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I am Doran and this is Not Easily Broken. We want to thank you for your support, and for those of you that are hitting the like button, you are absolutely amazing. We celebrate you guys. I am actually giving you a virtual fist bump. Thank you so much. Let's get right into it. Now, the phrase unequally yoked comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. In the King James Version, it says, "Be ye not unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness?" The New American Standard Version says, "Do not bond together with unbelievers." Or what partnership have righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? Now guys, as Christians or as kingdom citizens, we use this a lot relating to who Christians are supposed to date and marry. The truth is that was not what the main reason why Paul wrote this letter to the church in Corinth. It is one of the reasons, but not the main reason. See, the Christians in Corinth were struggling with their environment. You have to understand the history of the city of Corinth to know what I'm talking about. So let me give you a little bit of background. Let me give you a little bit of history. It was one of the most immoral cities in that region. We're talking about sexual immorality, sexual perversion, idolatry, and prostitution. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that was going on in Corinth at that time. If it was bad, you could find it in Corinth. Surrounded by corruption and every conceivable sin, the Christian in Corinth felt the pressure to adapt. They allowed this behavior to creep into the church. They knew they were free in Christ, but what did this freedom mean? How should they view idols and sexuality? What should they do about marriage? These were more than theoretical questions. The church was being undermined by immorality and spiritual immaturity. The believers' faith was being tried in the crucible of immoral Corinth, and some of them were failing the test. Many of them were affected by their surrounding, by what was going on. It was influencing their behavior and their action in the church. Paul heard of their struggles and wrote this letter to address their problems, heal their divisions, and answer their question. Paul confronted them with their sin and their need for corrective action and clear commitment to their faith in God. And so what Paul did, Paul uses ox with a yoke around their neck to illustrate what it means to be unequally yoked. A yoke is a wooden bar that joins two oxen to each other and to bear the weight, the load, the burden that they pull. An unequally yoked team has one stronger ox and one weaker, or one taller and one shorter. The weaker or the shorter ox walk more slowly than the taller or the stronger one, causing the load to go around in circle. When one ox is unequally yoked, they cannot perform the task set before them. Instead of working together, they are at odds one with another. Now, Paul's admonition in 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14 is part of a larger discourse to the church in Corinth on the Christian life. He discouraged them from being in unequal partnership with unbelievers because believers and unbelievers are opposite, just as light and darkness are opposites. Paul urged believers not to team up with those who are unbelievers. That is to form a binding relationship, a binding partnership with unbelievers, because this might weaken their Christian commitment, their integrity, or their standards. In other words, it would be a mismatch. It's like trying to mix oil and water together. The two of them just don't go together. They don't mix. And so the key point that Paul was making is towards your spiritual walk with God. You must be careful that people that you aligned yourself with don't take you out of the presence of God. Don't take you out of the will of God. This does not mean isolating yourself from unbelievers. We see this in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9 through verse 10. Paul also urges Christians to stay with their unbelieving spouses. You find it in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 12 and 13. Paul wanted believers to be active in their witness for Christ to unbelievers, but not lock themselves into personal business relationship that could cause them to compromise their faith. Now, this does not mean you can't do business with unsaved people. Most of your employers that you work for are atheists. They don't believe in God. They're not necessarily great people. Some of them are evil people. You take their money. Every week you get a paycheck from somebody that don't believe in God. As long as they are not turning your heart from God, it's okay. Take that money. Build your business. Build your life. Take care of your family. Believers should do everything in their power to avoid situations that could force them to divide their loyalty and their responsibility to God. That's what Paul was basically saying. Paul was saying that don't yoke yourself with people that can lead you astray, that can take you out of the will of God, take you out of the presence of God. Now, how does this relate to relationships and marriage? These verses also have a solid application for marriage. Paul did not want single believers to enter into marriage with unbelievers. Such marriage cannot have unity in the most important issue in life, in the most important part of life. So what is the most important issues Paul is talking about? He is talking about your commitment and your obedience to God. He is talking about your relationship with God. Paul is saying, do not marry someone who will take you out of the presence of God. See, when Adam found Eve, he found Eve in the presence of God. When Eve saw Adam, Adam was in the presence of God. If you're going to be in a relationship as a believer, if you're going to marry someone as a believer, marry someone that is in the presence of God, that know God, that have a relationship with God, that live in a godly lifestyle. We're not talking about people that are religious. We're talking about a believer, one that practices the biblical principle of love, respect, honor. Hello, talk to me. Paul is saying don't marry anyone that has a problem with your faith walk. Paul is saying don't marry anybody that have a problem with you being a believer. Because marriage involves two people coming together as one, becoming one. Faith may become an issue, and one spouse may have to compromise their belief, their character, or their core values for the sake of the unity in the marriage. See, many people discount this problem only to regret it later. Guys, listen to what I'm saying. Don't allow your emotion, don't allow your feelings, don't allow your passion to bind you with someone who will not be your spiritual partner. Someone that can pray you through your problem, someone that can pray with you and discuss the word of God with you, someone that can encourage you spiritually. If you are a believer, you need to take these in consideration. For those who have discovered God's light, there can be no fellowship or compromise with darkness. Two cannot walk unless they agree. Unequally yoked has more to do with marrying someone who has the potential, listen to what I'm saying, marrying someone who has the potential to destroy your faith and your relationship with God. That's the key point that Paul was trying to make. It is about you marrying someone who shares your faith and your values. Unequally yoked is not about you marrying a perfect mate or having problems in your marriage. You will have problems in your marriage. You will never marry somebody that is perfect. It means regardless of what is happening in your marriage, you don't have a spouse who will lead you out of the presence of God. I need to make this very clear to you. That you don't have a spouse that will lead you out of the presence of God. That is the major point that Paul is trying to make. that Corinth is a messed up, immoral city. Don't allow it to penetrate your mind and your spirit and your emotion, that you're bringing that unworthiness and ungodliness into your lives, into the church. And then he used that example for those of you that are trying to date and you're trying to court and you're trying to get in a relationship, that you don't mingle and intertwine your life with a person that can literally take you out of the presence of God. That's the key point that Paul was trying to make when he talks about unequally yoked. And guys, this may come as a shock to some of y'all, but don't try to marry someone who you consider to be compatible with. Listen to what I'm saying. First of all, let me ask you a question. What does it mean to be compatible anyway in a relationship? What does that really look like? Can you help me to figure that out? I truly don't know or understand what that looks like in a marriage. And I've been married for almost 28 years, guys. February the 5th, 2022, it will be 28 years that my wife and I are married. And what about this compatibility that we so hang up and so big on as it relates to being in a relationship and finding the right person? I think that we need to focus on core values instead. What are their foundational values that attract you to that person? What are their core values? What are their core principles? What do they believe in? See, this is what will stand the test of time in your marriage and in your relationship. What you consider to be compatible today may not be compatible tomorrow. What you both like today may not be what you like tomorrow. Listen, I told you that I've been married for almost 28 years. I used to eat red meat. I don't eat red meat anymore for the last 22 years. Does that mean that I am not compatible? See, guys, you and your spouse are not equal in most things concerning your marriage. I want to say that again, so those of you that believe in this compatibility thing and being alike in all aspects of marriage, let me just help you again. You and your spouse will not be compatible, or you and your spouse will not always be in agreement with most things concerning your marriage. What am I saying? Okay, let me break it down to you. Both of you may not be good at handling money. One may be better at it and the other is not. Does that mean that you are unequally yoked? One of you may be forgetful than the other, and the other spouse may forget most of what you say to them. Does that mean that you are unequally yoked? One of you may have a higher sex drive, and the other one libido is lower than yours. Does that mean that you are unequally yoked? One spouse may be highly educated. One of you guys may have more degree than a thermometer. Does that mean that you are unequally yoked? What if both of you are unbelievers and one of you decided to become a Christian? Do you divorce a spouse who is not a Christian? No. The saved spouse must be a godly example that lead the other person to Christ. At least that's the idea, to try to lead that person to Christ. And what about if two of you guys are Christian and one of you guys decided that, oh, you know what? I don't want to do church anymore. I don't want to do God anymore. I don't want to do all of that stuff anymore. Do you just divorce? No, Paul said that if the two of you agree to be in the marriage, then there's nothing wrong with that. Because when you stand before God and they stand before God, the two of you guys are going to be accountable for what you do separately. The Bible said that a man doesn't come to God unless he's drawn by the Spirit. You don't have the ability to save your spouse. You only have the ability to influence change through your changed behavior. And the truth be told, some of y'all are not setting a good example for your non-believing or your unbelieving spouse to follow. Marriage is about coming together as one. It means that both of you are working together for the greater good of the marriage. The both of you are working together to help each other to become a better version of themselves. In other words, when you are better at handling money, then the other spouse that is not good at it need to give you access and give you that leadership, give you that position to take care of that. finances because you're better at it. Maybe another person is more organized in other areas. That's the beauty of marriage, guys. It's the beauty of oneness. It's the beauty of coming together. It's about working together as one, working together as a team, building a culture in your marriage where two people coming together. It doesn't mean that your spouse is flawless. It does not mean that you're not going to have issues or situations. But two mature people coming together, working together for the greater good of the marriage, that you both can work it out and build a marriage that can be built to last. All of a sudden, we are in a culture where everybody wants everything perfect. I mean, what about working together and building something that can last and can stand the test of time? It's not about perfection. A lot of the things that you think is going to be perfect while you're dating, I'm here to tell you that when you get married, you're going to begin to realize that a lot of things that you are fantasizing about is not what your reality is going to be. But what it's about is about the two of you guys trusting in God, believing in God, taking things seriously as believers and working together to build your marriage. And so guys, that's what I want to share with you in this video. I hope this video helps. And if it did, please give it a like. And if you have not subscribed, then please hit that subscribe button. I pray that God will continue to bless you. Thank you for watching this video. And please leave a comment in the comment section and let us know what you think. Do you think that the information that I share with you in this video makes sense as it relates to being unequally yoked in a marriage, in a relationship? I hope to hear from you. May God continue to bless you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.